Now let's take a look at something called a constructor. And I want to show you this because it can save you a lot of time, and it's a really neat tip and trick for the way you instantiate objects from your classes. And I just want to kind of cover this simply, and you can go a lot deeper with this. But a constructor is basically the first method that's called, or it's the one that's used when this class is actually used to instantiate an object. Now, you don't see the constructor right here, but there is actually one there if we don't provide it. And let me just put one in for you. Let me put it in the right place. Let me get inside the class. And even though we don't see it, every time we create a new instance of this class as an object, and you can look back at the instantiating an object video to see that in action, there is a method that's called, and it's called public animal, and it's, you'll notice, the very same name as our class. And there's no code in it because we didn't specify a constructor, and so the compiler just kind of builds one for us and it's empty. Well, we can put a constructor in if we would like, and we can have it do whatever we want it to. Now let me show you a real quick easy one right now. We could set the name equal to Jack. So what this is going to say is every time I create an instance of this class, animal, it's going to set this name value, this private field, it's going to set the name to Jack. Now, I don't know how that's really going to help us, right? But let's just take a look at it and play with it. So if we go to our design, and I'm going to comment out the code that we had. Now you'll notice, by the way, that I'm in the VTC constructor files. And this is basically the same as the VTC create class without that class 1 file in here, okay? But you can get this again on your working files folder and just open it up, or you can code it up on your own from nothing. But notice with this one, I'm going to create animal, and I'll do D equal to a new instance of animal, and I will immediately call a message box, and let's check the name of D. Now notice I haven't done anything, I just instantiated it, and so as soon as I click the button here, it creates D, and the name is Jack. So every object I create now has the name Jack. Let's look at a better way that we can use constructors. Now with a class, once I want to create my own constructor, I am really starting now to overload the constructor. And we're not going to get into overloads in this class, but I will show you one right here. If I want to do anything special with a constructor to make any kind of changes or set things on the class as it comes into being, I have to do what's called overloading. And I want you to watch this. Public animal, and now I'm going to say, I'm going to take, I want to take a string called N and a string called B. And then I am going to set name equal to N, and I'll set breed equal to B. And then I will close that. Now, I can choose to create a class without setting anything, just by, equals, new instance of animal, or I can pass in these values and set name and breed at the time I create that particular object. So if I don't mention them, I just get an object like normal with nothing set, and if I put in the name and the breed, it will load those up for me when the object is created. So let's go take a look at that. And so now what's going to happen is, notice, if I do this now, okay, and I don't pass it anything, it is going to run this first constructor. So let's do that. And you'll notice the name is not equal to anything. Well, let's go do a different one. So let's go in here and let's change this, and let's say give me a new animal, and let's pass it Fluffy the dog, and Fluffy is a poodle. Now notice we're passing in the name of the dog and the breed. And so this is going to show name, and let's do a little tricks here. And oh, I didn't set up, that's okay, never mind. I never set up a property for breed. So anyway, we're just going to use name here, okay? But we've got to pass them in both because we asked for them both. So I will execute this, and you will notice now that the name is Fluffy. So just by creating the object, I passed it these two values, and then when it created that instance of that class D loaded those two on construction. And so the bottom line is when you have a class, in this instance it's named animal, then you either by design that you put in or just by default in the background, you have a constructor that's just an empty method that takes no arguments. You can overload that and create your own method that takes any number of arguments, and I can do this again and do public animal that only takes a string in, or one that takes, you know, a string and an integer. So anyway, that's a constructor, and it helps you to save some steps that when you create objects, you can go ahead and put information in, create that class with all those properties set, and then start to work with that particular instance of that object. So I hope that makes sense. Go back and play with that. Go out and read up on it. You can do some cool stuff with the constructor.